You know why D.C. is freaking out over Elon Musk? You know the real reason they hate him and his quest for transparency? This is why.
Let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress where I'm trying to connect the dots of how did they become rich while earning, how'd they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year? It sounds, nobody can explain that.
Ruh-roh. Someone hit a nerve, and that is why they are freaking out. We have seen all the movies where they talk about all the money that's getting moved around the government to fund all kinds of ridiculous things.
I don't understand. Where does all this come from? How do you get funding for something like this?
Well, you don't actually think they spend $20,000 on a hammer, $30,000 on a toilet seat, do you?
Independence Day is fiction. This is not fiction, it's real. And you know who makes the most? Who makes out the absolute most on this? The people who make those toilet seats and the hammers that live in and around D.C., the consultants for the creation of the hammers and the toilet seats, the lobbyists who are hired by the hammer company that go to congressmen's fundraisers in D.C., who host senators at their golf clubs and high-end restaurants in and around D.C. This is how it works, unfortunately. On everything, in every industry, in and around D.C., nearly everyone with a meaningful input in and around the Beltway is getting rich off our tax dollars, and I'm going to prove it to you. Did you know that 7 out of 10 of the wealthiest counties in America are around D.C. and the Beltway? It's been this way for 3 decades. The wealth has soared disproportionately, unlike anything anywhere else in America, and it really accelerated right around the time the Iraq War started, ironically enough. Weird, right? Here's how it works. Company A really wants a tax break for their specific product because it's essential to industry X, Y, or Z. Maybe they would like a government contract to produce whatever the heck they produce. Oh, I don't know. Maybe a vaccine, like body armor, microchips, fighter jets, N95 masks, whatever, just pick one. They hire a lobbyist on K Street that plays golf with the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, and voila! The next defense spending bill gives that contract to that defense company, the F-35 program. That's a $1.7 trillion program for Lockheed Martin. How'd that happen? Their CEO getting taxpayer dollars, almost $23 million in total comp in 2023. Little quick math here, just so you realize how much that is. The average middle-class American household pays about $18,000 in taxes, and since Lockheed gets 75% of their funding from U.S. government contracts, that's funded by you and I. That means the CEO of Lockheed Martin's salary consisted of the total amount of taxes from 1,200 middle-class families, all of it. Your blood boiling yet? Hold my beer. Let's say you work for a pharmaceutical company, maybe at the beginning of COVID, say. You sent your lobbyist to go see Fauci, or even state and local governments, which are far less expensive, and in this case, far more lucrative, we'll say, investments. Here, Forbes 40 new billionaires were created during COVID, many in the hand sanitizer, mask, and pharmaceutical industry. Or let's just say you own, I don't know, we're spitballing here, a microchip company. You pay lobbyists millions of dollars to go schmooze with a bunch of congressmen. I'm not saying this happened, but, could you imagine if it did? Now, these companies can't outright pay a politician to make something a law or allocate money for that cause. No. That would actually be illegal. That would also be immoral. But let's just say, I don't know, a little named company, I'm just going to make one up here, NVIDIA, met with a lobbyist who then met with some congressmen, and all of a sudden there was a weird coincidence where a bunch of congressmen bought this stock. In fact, it is the largest single stock held by congressmen. And then miraculously, a $280 billion bill gets passed that pumps money into chip companies. So strange, right? And then the stock suddenly shoots up. I mean, what a coincidence. And since 1, nobody seems to even care or get prosecuted for this, and 2, the Stock Act of 2012 only requires disclosure 45 days after they buy the stock. It's not insider trading, right? Well, it kind of is, but not really, because Congress gets away with everything. Don't be fooled by this. This is both parties, with top earners making 50, 60. One guy last year made 2023, 238% revenue on his portfolio, 10 times better than the return of the S&P. Nothing to see here. That's why they're angry at Elon. Also, if you don't like the market, there's a way easier way to launder money, let's just say. These congressmen can get donations from all these companies, big pharma, defense companies, tech companies, In fact, according to The Hill, while COVID hysteria was being ramped up, Big Pharma was a major donor to over 2/3 of Congress. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars. Congressional campaign accounts garner millions of dollars each. Ironically, they all legislated big COVID contracts too. Weird, huh? But since it would be bad optics and even illegal in many cases for a candidate to take the money out of their campaign account and give it to themselves, no problem. If you're Maxine Waters, just have your daughter open a consulting firm and pay her $1 million. Or if you're Cori Bush, pay your husband $135,000 to be your security. I mean, silly Americans. They write the laws. They always give themselves an out somehow. But since the media has basically not provided any scrutiny for this, at least the legacy media, even when they do these brazen things, they have gotten even bolder. Elon lined this out.
There is a massive amount of corruption, but it is circuitous. So what happens is there's money that, obviously it's your taxpayer money, that is then sent to various government organizations who then send it to NGOs, which an NGO is a non-governmental organization, but obviously if it's a government-funded non-governmental organization, it's just an organization, it's just a government. And effectively there's a giant fraud loophole, which is that the government can send money to an NGO that is then no longer governed by the laws of the United States. So they'll send the money overseas to one NGO, then it'll go through a bunch of them, and then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned.
I mean, nobody else can explain that, but when you challenge it, they all freak out. Oh, no, we're not doing that, and you get called a tinfoil hat guy. Now, look, how did Nancy Pelosi, who her and her husband were worth maybe a few $1,000,000 in 1987, they're worth over $200 million now. Mitch McConnell, this guy has never had a salary or any type of income over $200,000 a year, yet he is worth $34 million. If he had saved everything he had ever made, every single penny, he still wouldn't have accrued that kind of cash, but he did. Chuck Schumer, he's worth $75 million. Elizabeth Warren is literally a socialist. She's worth $67 million. Obama went into the White House essentially with no notable net worth whatsoever, and now he's worth $70 million with houses in D.C., Martha's Vineyard, and we're talking like MTV crib-style houses. This is why they hate Trump and Elon, because they are calling out the fact that USAID spent over $100 million on 104 wells in Africa, and nonprofits are doing them for $9,000 a pop. Why is the government spending $990,000 more per well? Is it coming back to politicians' pockets? I mean, deductive reasoning might suggest. Where do you think that money's going? They're not investing in Africa with wells. Elon's onto that, and that's why they don't like him.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.